You'll hear me say 1,000 times that one of the greatest gifts that we can give to the people we have relationships with is a willingness to constantly take a good, honest look at ourselves and to be willing to grow and mature in the areas that we need to. The area of how we handle situations where someone has hurt or offended us is one in which a great many of us could probably do some work. Here are a couple things to try to keep in mind in these situations that might help. Most of the time that people say or do something that is obviously meant to hurt you, the hurtful part is usually either number one, either born of frustration, or number two, it's not really about you at all. Let me explain. When people give you feedback in a way that it seems blatantly hurtful, it's generally due to one or both of the two things that I just mentioned. One reason may be that they have reached a point of frustration because they feel that they're not being heard. Many times, people act out in anger because they've come to believe that that's the only way that they can get your attention. Be honest with yourself. If this seems to be the case, then rather than striking back and making the situation worse by escalating the argument, acknowledge that you realize that they've given you this information before and apologize for not taking it to heart and responding to it. If you aren't exactly clear on what it is that they're trying to tell you, then ask them. Truly strive to understand what they need or expect of you, and then try to do it, provided it's a fair and reasonable request. The other reason that someone may say things that are obviously hurtful is that there's a much larger issue underlying what they're actually talking to you about. In these cases, if the way that they're acting seems to be out of proportion to what they're talking about, try not to flare up in response or even tell them that they're overreacting. Both of these will most likely only make the situation worse. Instead, realize what's going on, try to be patient, ask some good, meaningful questions, and try to help them and you figure out what the real issue is. Then stay in that calm, mature mindset and try to address the real problem. Sometimes the way that they're treating you is simply a product of some other difficulty that's going on in their life. We all know what it's like to come in a bad mood or to be affected by something that's stressing us out. And if this is the case and someone seems to be unfairly taking something out on you that isn't about you, you still owe it to them to listen to what they're saying with patience and understanding. Why? Because we have to keep in mind that no matter how people are giving us information, whether it's wrapped up in heightened emotions or not, there's almost always some valuable information in what they're saying. Somewhere in there is still something that has prompted the discussion that you're having right now. Our job is to do our best to sift through the emotions and get down to what they really need us to hear. The ultimate point that I hope you will hear is that when someone says something that we perceive to be an attack, our initial emotional knee-jerk response is seldom the best response. In fact, many times it's our response that's the one that winds up being out of proportion to the real situation, simply because of our own hot buttons from our own insecurities or pride issues. Regardless of where the heightened emotions come from on either side, it generally only makes matters worse and does more damage to the relationship when we handle these situations in an emotionally immature and unhealthy way. Learning to identify our own hot button triggers and working to get rid of them, as well as learning to be patient and understanding of other people's triggers and knee-jerk responses, is a huge but extremely worthwhile step in growing our Christian character. You'll hear me say over and over again that where working to improve interpersonal relationships is concerned, success breeds success. The better you get at doing things the right way, the better the response is that you get and the better you feel about yourself and your ability to deal with the difficulties in relationships in a healthy and productive way. The result is that you begin to have less fear around embracing even more personal and relationship growth, and the result is a healthier and happier relationships and a healthier and happier you. I hope that some of this information has been helpful to you. If so, we'd love to hear your success stories. Thanks for listening. God bless.